Hello and welcome to the Auto Remarketing Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Overby, Senior Editor of Auto Remarketing, and I'm joined today by Matthew Phillips, who is the CEO of CarPro's Automotive Group. Seems every time I read a news release, it's about them winning an award or expanding or doing some other cool project. And Matthew and I were supposed to connect at NADA, but the snow had other plans, and while as I look out my window here in Raleigh, North Carolina, it is snowing, but that's not gonna stop me from talking with Matthew this time. But Matthew, thank you so much for joining the podcast, and it's good to see you again and talk with you.
Well, thanks for having me here today, Joe. When I look out my window here in Southern California, it's sunny and not quite 80 degrees yet. So,
Oh man,
definitely not what was going on at NADA.
yeah, for sure. Well, I'm heading that way next month for a conference, and looking forward to some sunshine after all this snow here in the South. But um, wanted to start a little bit high level here. We're going to get into CPO and EVs and kind of opportunities in the used car space. But I wanted to start high level and just give our listeners and viewers a sense of who CarPro's Automotive Group is. What would you tell people? As a starting point, what CarPro's Automotive Group is, and how do you introduce the company?
Well, thanks, Joe. Again, I'm Matthew Phillips. I'm the CEO of CarPros. CarPros was started in the mid 90s by my dad as a used car lot in Tacoma, Washington. After I graduated college in 97, I joined the organization. We got our first new car store in Lacey, Washington. It was a Hyundai dealership, and our first full year, we were one of the top 10 in the nation for Hyundai volume out of a town of 8,000 people. We then got our next store, which was a Kia store in Tacoma. We still have that. And in 2004, we came to Southern California to get into the Kia market down there. At the time, Kia was really underperforming in Southern California and looking for somebody to move the needle. So we spent a few years getting our teeth kicked in California, but it's going okay now. Now we have, I believe, 9 dealerships, 3 still in the Pacific Northwest Seattle area, 2 Kia and a Hyundai. And then down here in Southern California, we have 3 Kia stores, CarPro's Honda Belmonte right across from Longo Toyota. And our newest acquisition about a year and a half ago was BMW Mini downtown Los Angeles. We sell about 2,000 cars a month, give or take, and we do about 2 to 1 new to used. So we're doing, 5, 6, 700 used a month, depending on what's going on. So we're very, as it sounded like, we're very big in the Kia space. We've retailed almost 200,000 Kias in our organization's lifetime. We're the largest franchise Kia retailer in the world by sales volume, and CarPro's Kia Glendale is the #1 Kia store in the nation by volume. We're also big in the EV space. You said you wanted to talk about EVs, so we'll certainly get into that. But we're one of the top, we are the top Kia EV retailer. Both of my stores in Washington are among the top in the state. We're one of the, I think, #5 in the new Honda Prologue sales. So always excited to talk about EVs. So that's sort of the high level overview of what we have going on here at CarPros.
Well, yeah, let's jump right into the EV portion. I mean, it seems that many dealers, just like many consumers, maybe are kind of cautiously getting into the EV space, just seeing how it all plays out. Knowing that there's a lot of hurdles and things that kind of have to be ironed out for it to really be profitable. What about EVs that have resonated with you and kind of, pardon the pun, the light bulb goes off as, hey, this is a great, business opportunity for CarPros?
Well, a couple of things. One, I personally like EVs. I enjoy driving them. I've had my picture with my personal Kia EV6. It's yellow. So you might have seen that in Automotive News. They've run that a couple of times. So it starts with the fact that I like EVs. We're absolutely committed to ICE sales, but whatever the customers want, we want to provide them. Now, to be fair, we are in markets that are more green, more EV focused, and we already had a great history of doing well with hybrids. So my staff was sort of already exposed to the features and benefits of electrification. So as our OEMs started getting into EVs, we thought, hey, we don't know how big this is going to be for the industry. Maybe it's a niche portion of it. Maybe we go 100%. But whatever it is, we want to be the best at it. So we came out early. We came out fast. We got everyone in the dealership thinking EVs, living EVs, breathing EVs, understanding the difference between a level 1, a level 2, a level 3 charger, understanding range, and just really familiar with the product and comfortable with it.
So, as you guys have excelled on the new car side of EVs, turning over to the used car side of it now that some of those vehicles that have been in the market and coming back, um, what are some challenges and opportunities that you've noticed in the used EV space and specifically within your operations?
So some of the challenges, probably the largest challenge, has been just the volatility in the price in the value. The volatility in the market for used
Yeah.
EVs. They'll be up, they'll be down. The book changes can be basically catastrophic. So for us, it's really important to not be sitting on the used EV inventory and not have aging used EV inventory, just because it's been such a dynamic marketplace. So that's probably been one of the hardest things to get our minds around. As far as selling the used EVs, it's very much like selling the new EVs. You have a certain percentage of people that come in and, hey, I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that specific one that you have. You got a lot more people for whom an EV might be a great option, but they've never considered it. So it's about making sure you educate those consumers on, hey, have you thought about this? Would this fit into your lifestyle? No, no problem. We got plenty of other cars to show you. Or yes, hey, well, let's talk about it a little more. Have you even ever driven an EV? Let's go around the block. So I think there is definitely opportunity, and there's opportunity among consumers who haven't considered it. And we talk about, and there's a lot of political talk about EVs being good for the environment and the need to get EVs out there. And for some reason, everyone's thinking, well, we need these new entrants, Tesla, Rivian, we need them so that we can get EVs on the road. But the people that are going there are already buying EVs. Where we are going to get, if we are to get more EVs on the road, and whether or not we should is a whole other subject, but if we are going to hit all these EV mandates that are out there, the only way it's going to happen is through franchise dealers who are talking to people who aren't thinking about EVs and educating them and seeing if it is right for them. And they're not right for everybody, but they are right for a lot of people that aren't thinking about EVs. And that's the same on the new and the used side.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean the automakers combined with their franchise dealer bodies have the scale to sell EVs across the country and have the production capacity and aren't in startup mode obviously and um, sort of have the built-in infrastructure there.
Well,
Um,
yeah, about getting EVs everywhere.
yeah,
Every town has a Chevy dealer, a Ford dealer, a Kia dealer, but they only put the Rivians in the highly populated high end areas. But then it's also getting those cars serviced, and the franchise dealer network with the legacy auto manufacturers have just a phenomenal service network. Whereas in some cases, some of these startups have zero or one service facility to service an entire state. And then if you see a massive recall, which happens to every manufacturer, and they're recalling hundreds of thousands or millions of cars for safety issues, good luck getting those through a single service department.
so what have you noticed in terms of that service side of EVs? How are the service appointments and the needs different in the service shop when you're fixing or servicing or repairing a an electric vehicle versus an ICE vehicle?
Well, a few things. The other maintenance items become the new oil change. So the tires, the brake pads, the cabin air filters, the wiper blades. There are still wear items that need to be changed just as often. In fact, EVs tend to go through tires a little faster than ICE vehicles. Uh, so there isn't as much maintenance, but the maintenance hasn't ended. And then the second thing we're finding, and most of them are still pretty new and under warranty, is when they do break, it's a pretty big ticket to fix them. So, we go from cars that are in the shop and, 6/10 of an hour, 1.5 hours to tickets that are 8, 12, 14, 20 hours. So when they do need repair, the scope of the repair is generally a lot more intensive.
Is that due to just the fact that it's mostly these expensive batteries slash, high tech components?
Well, it's a high-tech components and a lot of safety issues with moving these batteries around. Even pulling a battery out and replacing it, they're a lot of times roughly the size of a twin mattress. So there's just a lot involved with it.
Well, to shift gears to another used car related topic, you mentioned a bunch of the brands that are in the Car Pros portfolio, and a lot of those brands are big into excuse me, certified pre-owned. How how has CPO sales fared for your automotive group, and what's been some of the challenges and opportunities you've seen, kind of given all of the supply dynamics and challenges there?
Yeah, it's been really interesting with CPO. Obviously, when we had the inventory shortages, we were living off CPO. Um, but we're seeing really strong CPO demand right now, and I think it comes down to affordability. Between the increase in prices of vehicles that have happened over the last few years and the increase in interest rates versus what people that bought their car 3, 4, 5 years ago, the CPO becomes a much more affordable alternative for people. So we're seeing pretty strong CPO demand in all of our stores right now.
Um, is there to go back to the EV piece of it, given some of the consumer hesitancy or maybe just cautiousness about EVs, does that open up the door for CPO EVs?
Oh, absolutely. I think also because so many of the EVs are just so young. But particularly someone that comes in looking for an EV is definitely someone that sees value in a certified program. They want to know what they're getting. And you still tend to see a little bit more sophisticated buyer for the people that are intentionally shopping for EVs. We are selling used EVs. There's some interesting federal tax rebates you can get on them that I encourage all the dealers to explore. It's not a huge part of our business. There's just not a ton of demand. There is demand for it, but it's not a ton of it. We're definitely keeping our UV trades and retailing them, but we're not out really trying to stock up on used EVs or grow that part of our business. I think over time it's going to grow naturally. I have no idea at what rate. We will be ready to grow with it as it does grow. But right now it is a pretty small part of our used car business.
And speaking of growth, you mentioned at the outset that you guys have since kind of starting in Washington State and progressively growing in Southern California and adding dealerships. What have you noticed about the overall dealer buy sell landscape, and where does Car Pros kind of fit into that in terms of your growth plans and looking at the future of how big you guys want to get?
So what I'm personally seeing in the buy sell market is that it's definitely changed. It was some of the values were really high. I'm seeing that more tier one stores, of course, the top luxury stores, BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, Lexus, and then Toyota, definitely Honda, and surprisingly Kia and Hyundai. Not surprisingly, it's no surprise to me because I'm big on them. But versus where they were, 10 years ago, those stores are still seem to be transacting at a pretty high multiple with a lot of demand. Some of the more tier two stores seem to really the volume on them has dropped off, and there's a lot less competition to get them. So somebody described it as a flight to quality, and that's really sort of consistent with what I'm seeing. Is that the buy sell market is really bifurcated with high value or high demand brands in good areas being very, very valuable, and maybe a little bit more challenging brands in more challenging markets, seeing the demand for those drop way off.
And is there plans in the future for car pros to expand beyond the Pacific coast, into other parts of the West or even over here in the East?
Yeah, let me share with you a little bit about how I look at acquisition. And one of the things we look at is high per rooftop throughput. And our group has one of the highest in the nation per rooftop. We're very strategic about expansion, and I actually want to keep my brand portfolio small. There's a lot of great brands out there, but I think it's really important to have that partnership and that relationship with the OEM, and it's hard to do that when you start getting a lot of nameplates. Also, to really not only myself but all my staff to be an expert in every one of the programs and understand how the programs change, and some of them are constantly changing, and also understand the consumer. I think for us, it's really best to stay focused. So, we're really happy with the brands we have in our portfolio, and would probably be looking to expand within those. As far as leaving the West Coast, again, it has to be the right opportunity. We're definitely into it. Open to it. It has to be an area where we can do volume and we can scale, because that's how we run our organizations. But the one thing I'm not looking to do, Joe, is just expand for the sake of expansion. Just add more rooftops, add more nameplates to my business card, add more employees, add more stress. So we're very strategically looking for expansion, but if it's not the exact right fit, we're just going to hold off and work on maximizing the opportunity we have with our existing dealerships.
Well, the last question I wanted to talk with you before I let you go here. Wanted to talk about some of the efforts you guys have been doing through the Car Pros Cares arm. I know I'm looking back at a story here. You did a school supply drive in September. What was the inspiration for starting this charitable arm, and what's been some of the projects there that you've been proud of?
So this is really exciting, and we just have. I am so fortunate. I'm so blessed because we have the most amazing team, and most of this, I do some philanthropic giving personally and at a high level. But the Car Pros Cares is really sort of a grassroots. It's all run by employees who volunteer. They bring the ideas and they execute. They have no mandate to do anything. It's like, hey, we wanted to do this. And there are things that can be done with high impact and low cost. And I think the neatest thing we did is, and they're not all drives. Sometimes we do other things. But last Christmas, we did a sock drive. Socks are one of the most requested items at homeless shelters, and we collected over 1,000 pairs of socks for people in need. So the Car Pros Cares is just really neat because it is all grassroots employee driven, and it's what our teams want to focus on, how they want to serve the communities they're involved in, and how we want to give back. So really proud of everything the team's done there. And like you said, it's been school drives. we went in and actually bought a bunch of shoes for one of the local elementary schools where they were low income. It turns out that one of the reasons a lot of kids don't go to school is they don't have shoes. Um, so we did that one time. So, overall, it's been just really high involvement, honestly, low dollar stuff that's engaged both the communities and our team at the dealerships.
Well, that's really cool. What I like about it is the um, people who want to help out, and they're at an employee individual level. They may have the feeling that, oh, I want to help, but I just don't have the infrastructure. I don't know how to do it. Eh, Yet they bring the idea, and you guys are able to empower that idea and kind of give them the infrastructure to actually make a difference.
Yeah, and that's the really great thing, and it just shows the power of teamwork. So you have
Yeah.
one person who maybe sees an area that we can make a difference, and then they come and talk to a couple of people that are on the committee, and then it's like, okay, well, now we have all these resources. We have media partners, we have customers, we have hundreds of thousands of customers in our email base that we can share the opportunity with, and we just have so much in the way of resources that we can leverage to make it happen. And it really just shows the strength of team and strength of the team at CarPros.
Well, Matthew, we'll leave it there for today. So good to talk with you. You guys are doing so much good work, both in the community and in the auto industry, and really appreciate you joining me today.
Well, thanks, Joe. Always great to talk with you. And anytime you want to talk cars or used cars or really anything, give me a shout. I'm here.
Absolutely, I'll definitely take you up on that offer. But that will do it for today's episode of the Auto Remarketing Podcast. My thanks to Matthew Phillips and the Car Pros team, and thank you for listening.